It's been 48 years since Mind Your Language first graced television screens, charming audiences with its witty take on language learning and cultural clashes. The iconic British sitcom remains a nostalgic gem, beloved for its unforgettable characters and hilarious classroom antics. But what happened to the talented cast who brought these characters to life? From flourishing acting careers to surprising new ventures and heartfelt personal stories, some have thrived while others faced challenges along the way. Join us as we uncover where the cast is now in 2025, revisiting their remarkable journeys after nearly half a century. Barry Evans, who began playing the role of Jeremy Brown, the kind and patient English teacher, in Mind Your Language in 1977, was 34 years old at the time. Despite his affable on-screen presence, Evans' personal life was marked by deep struggles. His career seemed promising initially, but he soon became disillusioned with the acting world, finding it difficult to secure meaningful roles after the show ended. His personal life was filled with disappointment, including several failed marriages and his inability to connect with others on a deeper level. These personal challenges, coupled with a growing sense of professional stagnation, led to a battle with depression that he could not overcome. Tragically, Evans died alone at the age of 53 on February 11, 1997, from a drug overdose, leaving behind an unresolved legacy and a sense of profound loss for a life that seemed to have so much potential yet ended in heartbreak and solitude. Ricardo Montez, who played the lovable yet often clueless Juan Cervantes in Mind Your Language, was 54 when he first took on the role in 1977. While his character was charming and often the source of comedic moments, Montez's own life was filled with far more serious struggles. After Mind Your Language, his career stagnated, and he found it difficult to land substantial roles. Montez's personal life was equally troubled, as he faced multiple failed marriages and strained relationships with his children. His financial struggles became more pronounced, and despite his early fame, he was increasingly isolated in his later years. His death on October 26, 2010, at the age of 87, came quietly and without the recognition he had hoped for. Montez's passing was a poignant reminder of the stark contrast between the joyful character he portrayed and the personal difficulties that plagued him throughout his life, leaving behind a legacy that was overshadowed by a deep sense of personal loss and regret. Zara Nutley, who portrayed the stern Miss Courtney in Mind Your Language, was 53 when she began playing the role in 1977. While she was known for her tough exterior on screen, Nutley's real life was far from stable. Her personal life was full of turmoil, with her marriage ending in divorce, and her career after Mind Your Language began to fade as opportunities became scarce. Nutley struggled with emotional challenges, including bouts of depression and a sense of loneliness that grew as she aged. Her financial situation also became strained as she found herself distanced from the public eye. Nutley's final years were a quiet reflection of her internal struggles, with little recognition for her earlier contributions to television. She passed away on October 9, 2016, at the age of 92, largely forgotten by the public. Her death came after years of isolation and emotional pain, and though she was remembered fondly by some, the sadness of her later life overshadowed the joy of her earlier years. Albert Moses, at the age of 40, began his portrayal of Ranjeet Singh in Mind Your Language in 1977. Ranjeet, a respectful and well-mannered Sikh, became famous for his politeness and his frequent apology, 1,000 apologies, whenever he made a mistake. Despite the warmth the character brought to audiences, Albert's post-Mind Your Language career took a downward spiral. After the series ended, he struggled to find substantial roles, and his personal life became increasingly painful. His marriage crumbled in the late 80s, leading to a bitter divorce that deeply affected him emotionally. He faced years of isolation and financial difficulties, and his health worsened as he battled depression. Albert passed away on September 15, 2017, at the age of 79 from a heart attack, although many believe the emotional toll from his personal life contributed significantly to his premature decline. Robert Lee, at 64, played Taro Nadazumi, a serious and disciplined Japanese businessman, in Mind Your Language starting in 1977. While his role was admired for its strictness and contrast to the more chaotic characters around him, Robert's career soon faced a series of setbacks. He became typecast in similar roles, which limited his opportunities and visibility in the industry. On the personal front, Robert's life was filled with sadness and disappointment. His marriage, which began with high hopes, quickly turned toxic due to emotional and physical abuse. In the early 80s, Robert's wife left him, taking their daughter with her. The emotional devastation of losing his family led to deep depression, and he found himself distanced from his daughter, whom he never fully reconnected with. Robert passed away on December 1, 1986 at the age of 73 after a prolonged battle with cancer, his final years marked by isolation and a lingering sense of unfulfilled potential. Dino Shafeek played Ali Nadeem, a cheerful and hardworking Pakistani immigrant, in Mind Your Language starting in 1977 at the age of 47. Ali's optimism and good-hearted nature made him beloved by fans, especially as he clashed with other characters while maintaining a positive outlook. However, Dino's life after the show ended was filled with hardships. Struggling to secure roles, he found himself typecast and unable to replicate his earlier success. His personal life was equally troubled, his marriage fell apart, and despite having children, he grew more isolated. The pressures of financial instability and a declining career took a heavy toll on Dino's mental and physical health. He battled depression and became increasingly withdrawn, ultimately passing away on March 10, 1984, at the age of 53 due to a heart attack. His death marked the tragic end of a promising actor who was never able to fully recover from the struggles he faced in his personal and professional life. Harry Littlewood played Henshaw in Mind Your Language starting in 1978, at the age of 57. Henshaw was a lovable but bumbling character, often providing comic relief with his awkward attempts to navigate language and social situations. Despite his charming portrayal, Littlewood's career after the show struggled to take off, and he found himself increasingly typecast in similar roles. His personal life was marked by deep sorrow, as his marriage ended in a painful divorce, leading to a strained relationship with his children. As the years went on, Littlewood's life became defined by isolation, poor health, and financial difficulties. His once promising career was overshadowed by his inability to find new opportunities, and he faced a growing sense of failure. Harry Littlewood passed away on December 26, 2003, at the age of 82, after a long battle with heart disease, leaving behind a legacy of unfulfilled potential and a life that never quite lived up to its early promise. Georgia Cooper, who began playing the stern and no-nonsense Mr. Short in Mind Your Language in 1978 at the age of 53, became known for his ability to portray a character who frequently clashed with the more relaxed personalities around him. Off-screen, however, his life was filled with disappointments. Cooper's career after Mind Your Language failed to gain much traction, and he found himself in a series of minor roles that did little to revive his fading fame. His personal life was equally turbulent, with a divorce that left him emotionally drained and financially struggling. Over the years, he became increasingly isolated, battling depression and health issues. Cooper passed away on November 16, 2018, at the age of 93, with few acknowledging the quiet struggles he faced in his later years. His death came quietly, a somber reminder of a man whose professional and personal battles remained hidden behind the facade of his strict on-screen persona. Jenny Lee Wright portrayed Maria Papandreou, a spirited Greek student, in Mind Your Language starting in 1986, when she was 39 years old. Maria's character was known for her lively nature and her frequent misinterpretations of English, creating moments of comedic brilliance. However, after the show ended, Jenny's life took a difficult turn. She struggled with a series of failed relationships, none of which resulted in the family life or happiness she had hoped for. Despite a successful start in television, her acting career began to dwindle, and she faced increasing financial instability. Jenny was never able to secure the steady work that she had once hoped for, and her personal life was marred by loneliness and disappointment. By 2025, Jenny, now 77, lives a quiet, largely private life, far removed from the public eye. She often reflects on a life filled with unrealized dreams, emotional pain, and a series of missed opportunities that continue to haunt her as she grows older. Gabor Vernon played Zoltan Sabo in Mind Your Language starting in 1978, at the age of 53. Zoltan was a well-meaning Hungarian student whose attempts to learn English led to many comedic moments. However, Gabor's own life was far from comedic. After the series ended, his career failed to find its footing, and he became increasingly frustrated with the lack of opportunities. His personal life was marked by a deep tragedy when his wife suddenly passed away, a loss that devastated him and led to a spiral of grief and emotional decline. Struggling with alcohol abuse and depression, Gabor withdrew from the public eye and became more isolated, both from friends and family. His financial situation worsened, and his health deteriorated as a result of his self-destructive behavior. Gabor Vernon passed away on April 23, 1985, at the age of 60, due to complications from alcoholism, his life cut tragically short by his inability to overcome his inner demons and the heartbreak he endured. Janette Charles, who took on the role of the elegant Mrs. Baxter in Mind Your Language in 1978 at the age of 51, brought a sense of dignity and refinement to the show. However, in her personal life, she struggled with isolation. Despite some early success in her career, Charles faced a painful divorce that left her without children and a deep sense of unfulfillment. As the years passed, she grappled with declining health and financial instability, making her later years a time of quiet sadness. Though she was once known for her poised and regal presence on screen, her life off-screen was filled with loneliness and emotional distress. Janette Charles passed away on June 2, 2024, at the age of 96, largely forgotten by the public. Her death was a quiet, sorrowful end to a life marked by personal heartache and missed opportunities, overshadowed by the struggles she faced behind closed doors. Damaris Hayman, 50 years old when she portrayed the woman speaker in Mind Your Language in 1979, brought a touch of eccentricity and class to the role. In her personal life, however, Damaris faced numerous struggles. Her acting career never reached the peak she had hoped for, leaving her feeling unfulfilled despite her talent. She was married twice, both marriages ending in divorce. The first was after discovering her husband's affair, and the second was due to an emotionally distant relationship. Damaris had one daughter, Harriet, but their bond grew strained as Damaris's mental health deteriorated. She faced bouts of severe depression and alcoholism, which affected her ability to maintain relationships. Damaris's personal struggles were compounded by feelings of failure and loneliness, as she felt overlooked by the industry she had once been a part of. She passed away on June 3, 2021, at the age of 91, having spent her final years isolated and largely forgotten by the public. Russell Hunter, who portrayed the blunt and straightforward jock in Mind Your Language starting in 1979 at the age of 54, became known for his thick Scottish accent and unapologetically honest nature. However, off-screen, Hunter's life was far from simple. His acting career saw a decline after the show ended, and he struggled to find meaningful work. Hunter's personal life was marked by a series of failed relationships and a growing battle with addiction. These personal struggles, combined with financial instability, led him to a quiet existence far removed from the limelight. Despite his on-screen bravado, Hunter faced deep emotional turmoil, which left him increasingly isolated in his later years. He passed away on February 26, 2004, at the age of 79, with little recognition for the man behind the character. His death, largely unnoticed by the public, was a sad reflection of a life marked by inner battles and unfulfilled potential. Dickie Davies, 51 years old when he appeared as himself in Mind Your Language in 1979, was a well-known sports presenter with a long and successful career. On screen, he exuded charm and professionalism, yet off-screen, his personal life was riddled with heartache. His marriage, which had begun in the 1960s, ended in a bitter divorce due to infidelity on both sides, leaving him emotionally scarred. Despite the public persona of a successful broadcaster, Dickie struggled with feelings of loneliness and alienation. His relationship with his children became strained over the years, and they became distant, with his son refusing to speak to him in the last decade of his life. His personal struggles led to deep bouts of depression, and although he continued working in television, his achievements felt hollow. Dickie passed away on February 19, 2023, at the age of 94. Michael Sheard played the role of a strict police sergeant in Mind Your Language in 1978 at the age of 40. His character was known for his commanding presence, often providing a sharp contrast to the chaotic environment of the language classroom. In real life, Michael struggled with personal challenges, including 2 failed marriages, which left him emotionally distant from his children. Though he enjoyed a steady acting career, often playing authoritative figures, he found himself stuck in typecast roles that didn't allow him to explore his full potential. Later in life, Michael battled cancer, which greatly affected his health and outlook on life. Despite his career in television and film, he felt unfulfilled and increasingly isolated. Michael passed away on August 31, 2005, at the age of 67, leaving behind a legacy of being remembered for his strong performances but also for a life filled with personal regrets and challenges that he couldn't overcome. Arthur Mullard, aged 69 at the time of his appearance as himself in Mind Your Language in 1979, was a veteran actor known for his Cockney humor and comedic roles. His career spanned decades, but his personal life was filled with turbulence. His marriage, which had been long-lasting, ultimately ended in divorce after years of infidelity and emotional neglect. Arthur struggled with alcoholism throughout his life, which took a toll on his health and strained his relationships with his children. His family life was fraught with tension, and his children were left feeling abandoned as he became increasingly consumed by his addiction. Despite his success on screen, Arthur faced a sense of emptiness off-screen, unable to reconcile his public persona with his personal turmoil. His health continued to decline, and he spent his final years in seclusion, battling both physical and emotional pain. Arthur passed away on December 11, 1995, at the age of 85. Jayarbir Asante portrayed Roger Kenyon, an eloquent Ghanaian student, starting in Mind Your Language in 1978 at the age of 37. Roger's charming and well-spoken nature reflected Jayarbir's own desire to be understood, but his career took a tragic turn as he struggled with typecasting and racial prejudice in the entertainment industry. Despite his talent, he never reached the level of success he had hoped for. His personal life was fraught with emotional strain, including a brief marriage that ended in divorce and a strained relationship with his children. Jayarbir also faced significant mental health challenges and feelings of isolation, which worsened as his professional opportunities dwindled. In 2000, at the age of 58, he passed away after a long battle with illness, his death a reflection of a life marked by unfulfilled potential and emotional sorrow. Rita Webb portrayed Lil the barmaid in Mind Your Language in 1978, at the age of 74. Lil's comedic charm and vivacious presence in the pub scenes made her a memorable character, but Rita's own life was far from comedic. While she enjoyed a long career in acting, she was never able to land major roles, and her career was plagued by missed opportunities. Rita's 2 marriages ended in divorce, each one leaving her emotionally scarred. Without children, Rita lived much of her life alone, grappling with loneliness and the absence of a close family connection. Financial difficulties added stress to her already challenging life. In her later years, Rita's health began to fail, and she suffered from depression, which eventually led to her passing on August 30, 1981, at the age of 77. Rita's life ended quietly, marked by the unfulfilled dreams of a career that never quite took off and a personal life that never found stability. Margaret Courtney played Miss Hardacre, the no-nonsense teacher, in Mind Your Language starting in 1978 at the age of 55. While her character was known for her stern approach to discipline, Margaret's real-life struggles painted a much darker picture. Despite being a talented actress, her career never truly flourished beyond her role on the show. She faced 2 painful divorces and became increasingly distant from her children. Her emotional struggles, combined with a growing sense of professional stagnation, led her to battle depression in her later years. Though she found success in theater, Margaret never felt completely fulfilled. She passed away on February 15, 1996, at the age of 72, after a prolonged illness that reflected the deep emotional toll of her life's disappointments. Her death marked the end of a career and life filled with regret, loss, and a lack of peace. Sonny Caldinez played Surinder's father in Mind Your Language starting in 1978, at the age of 46. His character, strong and authoritative, added a rich dynamic to the show, but his life off-screen was filled with personal struggles. Despite his acting talent, Sonny's career never reached the heights he dreamed of. He faced typecasting and often found himself in minor roles, never achieving the recognition he deserved. His 2 marriages were riddled with emotional neglect and infidelity, both ending in divorce. Sonny's relationship with his children deteriorated, and he struggled to maintain a stable family life. Financial troubles further compounded his difficulties, and he battled with depression and loneliness in his later years. Sonny passed away on April 12, 2022, at 89, a reflection of a life marked by frustration and isolation, leaving a legacy that was overshadowed by personal battles and unrealized potential. John Lyons took on the role of the police constable in Mind Your Language in 1979 at the age of 36. His character brought a touch of order to the chaos of the classroom, but John's personal life was full of turmoil. After the show ended, his career stagnated, and he struggled to land significant roles in television or film. John's marriage fell apart due to infidelity and emotional neglect, leading to a painful divorce. His relationship with his 2 children became strained, and he found himself increasingly isolated. Financial difficulties plagued him, and depression set in as he faced the reality of a career that had not lived up to his expectations. Now 81 in 2025, John leads a quiet and solitary life, far from the recognition he once sought. His career remains a shadow of what it could have been, and his personal life remains filled with regret and unresolved struggles. Anne Way played Mrs. Hunter, the nurturing and kind-hearted character, beginning in 1978 at the age of 63. Her portrayal of a calming presence in the classroom resonated with many viewers, but off-screen, her life was less serene. Anne's personal struggles were profound, as she endured a painful and prolonged divorce, leaving her emotionally drained and without children. Her career had its ups and downs, and in her later years, Anne battled financial difficulties that contributed to her declining health. Despite her warm portrayal of Mrs. Hunter, Anne faced a great deal of emotional turmoil, and her personal and professional struggles often intertwined. She passed away on March 13, 1993, at the age of 77, following a long illness. Her death was a quiet end to a life filled with challenges, both on and off screen, leaving behind a character whose warmth stood in stark contrast to her own troubled life. Zohra Sehgal portrayed Mrs. Singh, the wise and traditional Indian woman, starting in 1978 at the age of 66. Her character added a cultural depth to the show with her frequent use of proverbs, embodying the wisdom of her heritage. However, Zohra's personal life was far more complex. After marrying twice, she faced the early death of her first husband, which left a lasting emotional scar. Her second marriage was also filled with struggles, and despite a long and successful acting career, Zohra often spoke of the loneliness that came with being away from her family. Even though she continued to work in the film industry well into her 90s, the loss and emotional pain she endured overshadowed her achievements. Zohra passed away on July 10, 2014, at the age of 102. Her remarkable longevity was marred by the tragic experiences of her personal life, making her death a bittersweet moment for those who had admired her on screen. Tommy Godfrey played Sid, a cheerful and friendly figure who lightened the atmosphere in Mind Your Language, beginning in 1978 at the age of 62. Though his character was upbeat and friendly, Tommy's real-life struggles were far more somber. He had a troubled marriage that ended in divorce, leaving him heartbroken and isolated. His depression worsened over time, and the pressures of financial instability led him into a spiral of substance abuse. As his health deteriorated, his career faded, and Tommy became reclusive, rarely seen in public. The contrast between his on-screen persona and his off-screen life was striking. While he brought joy and laughter to viewers, his life was filled with sadness, loneliness, and addiction. Tommy passed away on June 24, 1984, at the age of 68. His death, a result of his personal struggles, marked the end of a promising career overshadowed by his private battles. Iris Sadler portrayed Gladys, the tea lady, starting in 1978 at the age of 70. Her character was known for her gossiping and comforting presence in the school, but Iris's life was far from comforting. She endured a difficult marriage, marked by emotional and physical abuse, which left her with deep scars. As her career struggled, Iris faced mounting financial difficulties and poor health. In her later years, she found herself isolated, grappling with a lack of support and a growing sense of abandonment. Despite her kind and nurturing character on screen, Iris's real life was a reflection of profound personal challenges. She passed away on January 12, 1991, at the age of 82, following a long illness. Her death came after years of emotional and financial hardship, and though she brought warmth to the screen, her personal life was far from the light-hearted image she portrayed. Jamila Massey played the role of Jamila Ranjeet in Mind Your Language starting in 1977 at the age of 43. Her character, a sweet and traditional Pakistani housewife, was often at the center of humor, trying to navigate cultural differences and language barriers in an English class. Despite her on-screen warmth, Jamila's real life was filled with challenges. She married young, but her marriage was difficult, leading to an eventual divorce. She had 2 children, but over the years, the bond with them grew strained as she faced loneliness and isolation. As she grew older, Jamila's health began to decline, including a severe stroke that left her partially paralyzed. At 91, in 2025, Jamila lives quietly in a nursing home, reflecting on a life marked by emotional pain, lost opportunities, and the toll of personal sacrifices. Kevork Malikyan, at 34, portrayed Maximilian Papandreou, a passionate and fiery Greek shipping magnate, in Mind Your Language from 1977. His portrayal of the character was vibrant, but after the show ended, Kevork struggled to secure leading roles and often found himself cast in smaller parts. Despite his talent, he was unable to break through to major success in his later career. In his personal life, Kevork's story was marked by heartbreak. His marriage ended in divorce in the early 80s, and he became estranged from his son, whom he loved dearly. The separation from his child was a deep wound that never fully healed, and he became withdrawn, his emotional struggles compounded by health issues. Kevork suffered a stroke in his later years, which further isolated him from the life he once knew. As of 2025, Kevork is 81 years old, living quietly and far removed from the spotlight, with his career and family life far from the success he once hoped for. Françoise Pascal portrayed Danielle Favre, a flirtatious French au pair, starting in 1977 at the age of 28. Danielle's charm and misunderstandings of English idioms made her a standout character, full of life and humor. However, Françoise's career after Mind Your Language faced a downward spiral. She struggled to find roles outside of her typecasting, and her once promising career faded. Her personal life also took a hit. She married an actor, but the relationship quickly soured, leading to a painful divorce. Though she had 1 child, Françoise felt increasingly isolated and emotionally drained. Financial difficulties added to her woes, and by 2025, at 75, she lives away from the public eye, often reflecting on the dreams she had but never achieved. Her life has been a series of disappointments, both in her career and personal relationships, leaving her in a quiet retirement far from the spotlight. Pik-Sen Lim played Chung Soo Lee, a disciplined Chinese secretary, in Mind Your Language starting in 1977 at 33 years old. Chung Soo Lee was known for her serious nature, often speaking in Chinese proverbs, which added an intriguing cultural element to the classroom. Outside the show, however, Pik-Sen Lim's life was filled with personal and professional struggles. While her acting career initially seemed promising, it stalled after Mind Your Language ended, leaving her with few opportunities. Her marriage was strained, and she went through a painful divorce due to her husband's infidelity and financial problems. Pik-Sen Lim had 2 children, both of whom faced academic difficulties, which deepened the emotional strain on her. Battling depression and isolation, she withdrew from acting and lived a quieter life. By 2025, at the age of 80, she is mostly out of the public eye, living a secluded life in a quiet corner of the world, far from the career that once seemed so promising. Anna Bergman took on the role of Ingrid Svensson, the direct and straightforward Swedish au pair, in Mind Your Language beginning in 1978 at 30 years old. Ingrid was known for her blunt honesty, occasionally misinterpreting British slang, which made her character both memorable and endearing. However, Anna Bergman's life after the show was marred by personal struggles. Despite the early success of her role, her acting career quickly stalled, and she found it difficult to secure notable roles. She married young, but the relationship soon turned toxic. Her husband was emotionally abusive, and their marriage ended in divorce. Anna had 1 son, but her financial and emotional difficulties left her in a constant state of stress. The emotional scars from her troubled marriage, along with the failure of her acting career, led Anna into seclusion. By 2025, at 76, she remains largely out of the spotlight, living a quiet life in Sweden, far removed from the character who once captured the audience's heart. George Camiller portrayed Giovanni Capello, the expressive and passionate Italian chef, in Mind Your Language, starting at 35 years old. Giovanni was known for his exuberant personality and humorous misunderstandings, often providing much-needed levity in the classroom. In contrast, George Camiller's personal and professional life was a far cry from the comedic antics of his character. His acting career never regained the same level of success after the show, and he struggled to find significant roles. His personal life was equally tumultuous, with 2 failed marriages. The first ended in divorce, partly due to his temper and his dedication to his career, while his second marriage was marred by his growing alcoholism and emotional instability. His personal battles led to a period of public scandals and isolation. Despite the success he achieved in his youth, Camiller spent his later years battling addiction and loneliness. As of 2025, he is still alive and now 82 years old. Elizabeth Adarette played the African lady in Mind Your Language in 1978, at the age of 29. Her character brought a fresh cultural perspective to the show, yet Elizabeth's personal and professional life were full of struggle. While her role in the series showed her talent, Elizabeth's career never gained significant traction afterward. Despite early promise, she was often overlooked for more prominent roles, which led to frustration and a sense of missed opportunity. Elizabeth's marriage was brief and ended in divorce, leaving her as a single mother. Raising her daughter alone while battling health issues proved to be a heavy burden, and Elizabeth found herself isolated and emotionally drained. Now 75 in 2025, Elizabeth has withdrawn from the public eye, living a quiet life in seclusion. She remains a poignant example of unfulfilled potential and the toll of personal hardships on a career that could have been. Who is your favorite character from Mind Your Language? How do you feel knowing that some of the actors have passed away? Don't hesitate to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this content, please remember to like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss future videos. Thank you so much.